Peter's like swinging on the, like a child.
Members ready? I'd like to call to order the 909th meeting of the Board of Directors of Alexandria Sanitation Authority, now known as AlexRenew Enterprises. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
For a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Before we get started, I'd like to introduce our newest board member. Becky Hammer. I know everybody has met her, but she really brings just this perfect credential to the board. She is currently the Deputy Director for Federal Water Policy at the Natural Resources Defense Council. Has over 10 years experience in the water field, freshwater ecosystems and infrastructure funding. When you think of anything more relevant to what we do here. Becky, welcome. I think you're going to enjoy it. Okay. So let's get started. Madam Secretary, any members of the public? No. Again, traffic is keeping the crowds in. Let's jump right into the consent agenda, which includes the minutes from our meeting in June 20th. Give you a second to review the minutes. I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes as they appear. So, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, member and committee updates. I think our chairman, our CEO just handed around the list of civic associations. But now that we're through COVID, these civic associations are getting active again. Becky, you are connected to the Federation.
That's what they signed.
Let me know if I could help introduce you around.
That would be great. I've never attended one of those meetings.
It's an interesting group.
Learned a lot about them.
I will connect you with the Federation. I've got a little update from my association in Rosemont. Tomorrow, I think Aaron probably. The stormwater group is having a field. The engineer who is going to be working on the Cliffs Run bypass is having sort of a kickoff, calling a field walk with the engineers and most specifically the public relations firm associated working with the engineer to sort of gauge public interest in this bypass project. Bypassing Cliffs Run, flooding and lower. Again, that's not related to AlexRenew. But when you think about the Cliffs Run, the Commonwealth Interceptor that we talk about, these projects affect the same neighborhood. So it'll be an interesting event. I'll give a full report next meeting. Should be interesting. I know my neighborhood's very interested in anything related to sewers and stormwater and flooding. And they have a hard time making the distinction between who is AlexRenew and who is the city. Right there? That part of Alexandria, it's all connected. It'll be an interesting day. I hope it's not rainy or too hot. That's all I've got from my civic association. Anything from Del Rey or elsewhere? Yeah. Any updates from finance and audit? Had a big update last week. And governance. A lot of things coming up. Say a word or two.
We will have a meeting on the 18th. We've got the agenda for packet. We're looking forward to having this discussion.
Meeting on the 18th.
September 18th.
September. self-assessment. What is the assignment for the self-assessment?
Basically to complete this online survey, and particularly if you can add any feedback or some comments.
And where should we,
So the self-assessment in tab 2 is a draft there for, board comment. Our goal is to get the self-assessment out on an online forum once we got feedback from the board on this version. And then we will facilitate it through something like SurveyMonkey or feedback from the board. And then we'll capture that and we'll review the results at the September 18th governance meeting, which the agenda is also included in tab 2, a draft agenda for any review and comment by the board.
no, don't apologize.
Do all members of the board attend the governance committee meetings? Is it just the members of the governance?
Our history has been that the entire board goes to both of the subcommittees. It's just because we have a 5-member board. So we have a finance committee meeting, it's the same 5 faces. Governance committee, same 5 faces. And I think that creates board cohesion. Now regarding the survey, Mr. CEO, Mr. Carl, you want feedback on the survey instrument, or is this the final form?
I think if we got feedback by the end of the month, as long as we can get it out in August, give you all enough time to be able to complete the survey, that'd be great.
So the summer assignment, before we get back into class in September, is to make any changes to this instrument. And then when the final comes out, we give thoughtful input in this instrument back to Lorna.
We can have Lorna manage it, correct? It'll go through, it's aggregated online for us. And then we can share the results with governance committee chair and help synthesize them into a presentation to present in September. So if we get feedback on any changes to the self-assessment survey by the end of this month, that would be great. That way we have all of August and a little bit of September to complete it.
Those are very thoughtful questions, and I hope each of us provide some comments and feedback, not just the numeric score. The 5-member board, the numeric score is probably not going to be terribly informed, whereas a sentence or two will certainly create more discussion. So I think this is going to be a very, very good exercise. Great, good. Mr. Crowley, do you want to say a word about the, or Mr. Beal, say a word about the governance meeting on the 18th of the agenda as it appears?
So if anyone has comments or anything to add, please send those to Mr. Carl.
It looks like a good agenda. I mean, I think that the board roles and responsibilities, that particular set of guidance has probably not been updated in 10 years. So I think if you take a look at that in board effects and give any comments back to Mr. Beal and Mr. Carl, that would be.
I think the other thing to note is everybody should have a new copy of the board book. It's three packets. We, put it together for the board onboarding for Ms. Hammer, and also went through a whole onboarding process that we kind of started with Mr. Jenks, but we formalized it with Ms. Hammer, and we'd like to formalize that into a policy for board onboarding and governance for a governance committee to consider adopting for future board members.
I thank your team for putting those booklets together. I've used mine quite a bit already. It's nice to have it all in one binder.
Well, we missed the bylaws, so there's a separate handout in your packet tonight that you need to stick in there, the bylaws. It should be in your folder,
Okay.
stapled together. Like a booklet.
Insert that in a pocket.
Stick it in there, yep.
The onboarding process that I've observed with Ms. Hammer was just outstanding. It's a lot more robust than what I went through several years ago. So it's a nice job.
Obviously, I can't compare it to done before, but it was excellent.
overwhelmed?
No, I think I would probably recommend that in the future, people not attempt to do all the sessions in a row on the same day. It was a lot back to back. But it was, everyone did an excellent job. A lot of really good information.
I'm very happy how this worked out. Good. Anything else on governance committee? Okay, so everybody knows what the summer assignment is. Okay, let's move right on to new business, moving right along. Election of officers. And I've talked to all board members, and I think given where this authority is right now, with a huge project underway and a brand new CEO and actually new members of the executive team, I think continuity on the board matters. And I would suggest, I would offer myself to continue as chair, if you'll have me, and then try to keep the leadership team intact. Next year might be another story, but for this year, right now, I think keeping kind of a steady composition on the board would be a good thing. Chair. Open it up for discussion and any other ideas. Bill?
I'm happy to continue to serve as vice chair. I know we talked about giving me honor as secretary treasurer.
Yep.
And I think that's a good choice if you're willing to do that.
Sure. These positions are available every year. So when you're ready. Okay. Before we vote, let me just say what if we continue with the slate, what the challenges are for the year ahead. I think that the most important thing the board can do is support the CEO and his team in completing the river. I think that is a Herculean undertaking. I think we all have to pull together, and the board has to do whatever it needs to do to continue the success of that project. So that's job one. And the job two is, and we talked about the board retreat, I think when the River Renew project comes online, this institution faces almost a transformation. It's in the middle of the transformation right now. But so I think we need to revisit our vision, strategic outcomes. I think what we have now is a very good framework. But I think because we have a new board, new CEO, and actually a new kind of a new configuration with River Renew, we should revisit. Because that 2040 vision we came up with about 10 years ago is in fact 10 years old. So I think that's sort of job two. And then the third one is I do want to focus a lot on succession. I think I've been in this spot for a long time. I would like to really emphasize handing off over the next couple of years, next year or two, because my term is up at the end of 26, so which is not as far away as it sounds. So those three things: support the CEO project, vision, values, outcomes, that sort of thing, then succession. So that's the game plan year ahead. So should we make a motion, sir?
Look, we elect John Hill as chairman, Jim Spiel as vice chairman, and Adriana Colbrelli as secretary treasurer.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you. We have a busy year ahead. Thank you. That was quick. Now, Mr. Carr, let's talk about job order contracts.
So we presented last meeting on the concept of job order contracts. We mentioned there was an RFP out. Our team has completed the RFP process. We've entered into negotiations with the three top teams, and we're bringing to the board tonight a recommendation to move forward with the three teams for job order contracting here at AlexRenew. They were Ace Construction, who's already performing work for us at our plant, PC Construction, and then FH Passion or FHP. They were evaluated on their experience in work at a wastewater treatment plant and evaluated on qualifications that we presented last meeting. There's a project executive, project manager, as well as their construction manager. And we also looked at their multiplier. For all job order contracts, we need to set up some way of accurate cost estimating. So we're using RS means. Each contractor will use RS means to develop a cost for a task order. And then they will apply the multiplier shown in table 1 in the memo in tab 4 to that for their overhead profit, or if they're using some type of union labor, they would include that in that multiplier. So they've already accounted for the labor use and labor rates of their staff and included those in the multiplier. The item above is the proposal score. You can see that ACE and PC were well grouped together, and FHP came in third. There was a pretty big gap between FHP and the remaining proposers, of which we had a total of 7.
The coefficient multiplier, can you explain, where does it originate? Does the contractor say this is the number I'm going to apply to the RSC labor rates?
Correct. So what we had done is, we asked for that in the RFP. Once we asked for feedback on our general conditions and agreement to make sure that the language around the multiplier was correct, and their labor rates, overhead, and profit are all included in that multiplier. So they go through RS means, unit price tables, quantity takeoffs, and then they apply the multiplier at the bottom line for their overhead and profit. So our goal is to get task orders moving very quickly to start addressing some work that needs to be done at the plant. I mentioned our solid system, our tertiary system, and we're also addressing some safety items at the plant as well with these contracts.
Mr. Carl, do you have any insight why the coefficient is so different among the 3 firms, especially with FHP?
No, it could be their profit. It could be their labor. They use different labor rates for their staff.
Have you seen that sort of variance before?
They were all pretty close. I mean, they were within this general area across the 17. This is the first time we've done this with a factor, a multiplier.
Now, in the paragraph above, the threshold of 6 million per year, that's per vendor.
Correct. We're not going to be spending 6 million a year per vendor. I think when we talked last meeting, our maximum budget for all 3 would be somewhere around 4 million. And that's coming out of our IR&R and approved capital plan. The idea might have been too, for moving forward, we would maybe want to provide an update on some of the spending on this, since it's going to be done via task order. So we'd be happy to present that in some sort of format to the board as we move forward. Just so you know what we're doing with the job. It's a little maybe dashboard, 1 page or a slide.
I think that would be worthwhile. Any further discussion on the job order contract? Motion approved.
Thanks.
Motion by Mr. Beal, second by Mr. Jenks. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Moving right along. Brand refresh.
So we had talked about, we'll get to it on the agenda, but we talked about having our order street in January, but we also had taken time to talk about how the organization has changed pretty significantly over the last 6 years as we took on AlexRenew. We've never been out in the community as much as we are now with the AlexRenew program. And our mark for AlexRenew is now well known in the community for AlexRenew. So given the transition at the organization, it made sense to look at doing a brand refresh. But first we wanted to give a little history Looking back to the organization starting in 1952, we still legally are known as the Alexandria Sanitation Authority, but back in 2012 we changed over to AlexRenew Enterprises, and soon after that, the environmental center and the NMF were built on the West Campus, and AlexRenew started to be a better known environmental anchor here in the community. That the logo that we have now has served us well, but it has also led to a lot of confusion as we got out in the community over the past 6 years with the RiverRenew program. There are times when we are considered a private organization due to the word enterprises. A lot of folks refer to us as Renew and drop the Alex part. So, we do have a little bit of an identity crisis. The RiverRenew program has also further complicated that. So we spent a lot of time when we took over the wet weather program for long-term control plan update and rebranded it RiverRenew. We really wanted to use a very simple mark to convey the purpose of the RiverRenew program. And if you remember, we looked at what we haven't come up with a name of it yet. The water swoop is contender now. We looked at the mark that we came up with for RiverRenew. We wanted to show polluted CSO getting clean through the plant, returning clean water back to Hunting Creek. That was the thought for the logo. And it had this very interconnected waterways theme as well. You can also look at these as waterways, and we're all connected by waterways. So we really liked the RiverRenew mark. And what we wanted to do is bring that in-house to AlexRenew and make that our new brand. So before we do that, just want to note that using the existing AlexRenew mark, we do the lockup logo on a lot of our mailers. And the lockup logo is what you see here. It's where we use the AlexRenew logo locked up with the RiverRenew logo. We include both on most of our RiverRenew materials. Another challenge, and this is a technical challenge, is the AlexRenew logo. When you make it very small, it's hard to read, it's hard to see, and it's hard to get those dots right because they've got a little bit of a faint fade to the middle. So we really wanted to look at strengthening the brand. The community knows us kind of via both logos, potentially more so by a RiverRenew mark. We wanted to unveil this evening the new AlexRenew mark. There's a few different ways. So we have three main colors: deep navy, vibrant blue, and royal purple. And I think we look at these a few different ways. We look at these as interconnected waterways. And we also look at these as the treatment process here at the plant. Wastewater comes in, it gets cleaned by our process, and then we have reclaimed water coming out the other side, showing our commitment to water reclamation and water reuse. I say that because purple is also purple pipes when we do water reuse. We have a purple line going through a building, it's a purple, water reuse, it's purple pipe. The other way to look at the purple and bringing purple into our logo, it's not widely used by water and wastewater entities. It also enforces trust and safety and reliability, something that we've been providing in the community since 1950. So the idea is to bring our primary mark RiverRenew over, change the color format, and then transition. If you remember, a few months ago, we went to the SEC. Thank you, Matt and Amanda, to register new fictitious names with the SEC. We really want to shorten the name then to AlexRenew, lose the enterprises, lose the AlexRenew Enterprises. We can still use them if necessary, but we want to, brand ourselves as AlexRenew. That's been kind of how most people know us, and it's pretty hard to drop the Alex part and just call us Renew, which is AlexRenew. That's pretty easy. On the right-hand side of the page is how we would use the white logos. We would use those same colors of the water swoop. I guess it's going to stick. Same colors as the water swoop on the right-hand side. If we have something of color that we want to use a white logo on. So we've got the vibrant blue, the deep navy, as well as the royal purple with the white option for the brand as well. So we've been working with our legal team to go through trademarking and also through registering this for use. It already exists for AlexRenew, but we have to go through and do the same process for the new color combination. We already own the mark. Just the new color combination is something we're working with our team on. In addition to that, I said a few times about connected waterways. Sorry, just a quick showing of what the brand looks like when we lock them up. And then we wanted to bring in a tagline too for the organization. And the theme of connected waterways is important to the organization. We protect the waterways that connect us. You probably read that quote come from Mr. Hill in articles, but we really like the message it sent, and we really like the way it worked with the logo. So we're also proposing to update the logo and tagline with protecting the waterways that connect us. Ultimately, what we do for the community. In addition to that, we also had a little fun, a little over the top, but it's fun. We also have a mascot. You all know Chloe, but we wanted to take a stab at refreshing Moxie, make her a little more 2023. And we're also proposing to roll out with our new mark, a new Moxie. And she still has the bubbly hair. And we look at that as representing water. Water flows through a plant. We pump air into the water to feed the microbes. And then we form flock downstream to let the contaminants settle out. So that's kind of our hair representation. We brought in the purple because we just like the use of that purple. Again, it's not widely used in our industry. And then the lightning bolts, they're barrettes in her hair. They represent our commitment to energy efficiency. And then if you look at her new outfit, that's what our people wear here in the plant. Our ops and maintenance staff, this is their uniform. This is how they stand when they get their pictures taken. If you look at LinkedIn. So she's got her name on there, and we also put the little flag on her left shoulder too, just like our staff. And then she's got very stylish safety boots with yellow soles for commitment. So it's the same idea of Moxie as before, just an updated, more in-line version with where we are as an organization and some of the other materials we put out through our outreach team. Oh, she also has 3 little freckles where her nose would be. So the intent is, we put together a little schedule. The intent would be is internally, a lot of this stuff is just done internally. Paper pushing in-house. We would do a little soft launch. We'd send an email out to our partners in the city. We would present it to the SAG, Council Board Work Group. Email a lot of the same people that were emailed when the CEO transition occurred. Internally, during that time, we'd be working on our paper products, your business cards, our business cards. Start working on our uniforms, which is patches that need to be replaced on uniforms. And then long-term, looking out to the spring is where we change signage and prominent logos in public installations, prominent ones. We're not going to go through every single logo in the lobby and try and change every single tiny logo, but the logo on the carpet when you walk in, the logo on the wall, and then the one logo in the building will probably lose the logo at the fountain. But that's sort of what we're looking at to kind of move the brand forward. And you can kind of see how it works at the end of the presentation in the purple with the tagline. Oh no, sorry, with AlexRenew.com. A lot of these changes are low-hanging fruit. We can quickly do them digitally, but we wanted to first, present this to the board, and then start our campaign internally. Probably next week. Start changing by then.
Thank you. Let's hear from the board. Let's hear from. This is, by the way, obviously a lot of thought with you. Let's do it.
I like the consistency between AlexRenew and AlexRenew. I also think I almost always refer to the organization as AlexRenew. It's easy to say. I think this is very striking. It's very catchy. The only criticism I'd have is that Moxie's boots are too clean. She obviously hasn't been on the tongue.
Not yet.
Adriana and Becky, you live in this space, right? This is the water space that you work in every day. What's your reaction?
I like it. I think it looks great. I did a question. Are we, once AlexRenew is online and completed, are we retiring AlexRenew? So this is a nice transition in my mind to go to sort of having the two that look very similar and then slowly retiring it. And it keeps the continuity. I think it looks really great. And I think it's a good way to approach it. I like Moxie too as well.
Yeah, I love it. It's very clean. It's much more visually striking than the current logo, which is like elevated. I love the colors. Purple's my favorite color, so I feel like this is
We knew that.
for me. Yeah. In fact, this shade of purple and navy, one of my wedding colors. So nailed it. The tagline is a bit of a mouthful. I feel like, especially because protect and connect rhyme. So it's like a lot of syllables. But maybe it's just the first time I've heard it. Probably. Well, get used to it.
Mark, I know you're looking at this from probably a very different angle. What's your reaction?
For first, the tagline, I'd be interested in knowing. I mean, the word that strikes me would be improving, which may get at the issue of driving. So we're not just protecting the waterway, we're improving the waterway. So I don't know what the thoughts were between those two words. And the second one is more of a operational, which is, are we going to convince people get bills who they're getting, let them understand who they're getting the bill from, and not have the kind of the big problem the last time when people were like, who is this that's sending me this bill?
Yeah. So we kind of been thinking about that. You know, we wouldn't propose changing our bill until we transition over to our new billing system, which again is probably January of 2024. Leading up to that, we've always liked to do bill stuffers to show, you know, the new look. We can include those with our current bill to let people know of the rebrand. We also wanted to reach out to, we want to leverage our current relationships with our stakeholder group as well as the council board work group to let council know that this is coming. You know, it's just something that can be mentioned if, you know, their question. But we would have an outreach. We would have an outreach program established before we would have this hit in the first bill in January. GCWW wouldn't have any interest in even changing our logo at this point, since they're kind of moving out of the business. But we can still do the bill stuffers, which are usually pretty helpful.
How do the employees feel about
They haven't seen it. We've mentioned it, but haven't seen it. We did a little testing with Moxie internally with staff, but you know, they've heard about it. They know the mark's going to be changing to the water swoosh
What is Moxie used for?
education. Moxie's really very similar to Chloe on the AlexRenew side. She's used for education and kids. She's not necessarily used for, you know, any sort of outreach other than STEM.
Going back to my first question, what are your thoughts of protecting versus improving?
I can't tell you how many taglines that we have kicked back and forth. So we're open to feedback.
I like protecting, the meaning of the word protect. I mean, it's
it? Strong word.
a strong word. It's just this, it's a long tagline. But when you break it down into all of its parts, they're all good parts. It's just a lot. I think overall.
It is reminiscent. Is it EPCO and we're connected by more than power lines? Is that your old organization?
No,
The other guy?
we were keeping us connected though.
I actually like the prime protecting waterways, connectors. I know,
When you say it like that,
Yeah.
you should just have him read it. like,
Get arranged.
display when you-
because it's easy to remember. Connect those things that connect us. And then the fact that you're using waterways and not a river, it connects to the West End, you always spend enough time on the river,
This traffic's terrible.
keeping public away from the meetings. So, yeah, no, I'm impressed. I like it. And the time is right for a refresh, right? With AlexRenew coming online. And by the way, most people refer to us as AlexRenew. Any other comments, reactions, Aaron, Rob, anybody?
It's great. Just a selfish, we're talking about branding as well. Was this done in-house or was it done?
A lot of it was done in-house. We do have West Carey Group that helps us out to polish things, but a lot of it was done in-house with Matt and his team. Matt, Caitlin, and team.
It's amazing, the in-house talent. I mean, I used to work with Madison Avenue firms. I can't tell you how much this kind of stuff costs. Well, I can tell you, but I won't. That's very common, very common. And we'll miss the Big Dipper, but I was the only one who saw the Big Dipper.
Can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
I really like the rhyme, but protecting the waterways connecting us rather than that, to make it a little bit shorter. Even more of a jingle.
I'll let you all. Since the in-house team is so strong, I'll let you, but I actually like it. And you're right, the old logo did not scale well, too small. It looks good on the side of the building. Real estate.
This could be any size.
Very nice, very nice. Mr. Carl, what do you need from us right now? Just a reaction or a vote, or just reaction?
Reaction.
The only advice I would give, and be very thoughtful, naturally are, about the rollout. And because this seems like a very logical transition, I think that would almost argue for a gradual roll.
Say err on the side what we're doing, transition, communicating with regulars.
Very nice, very nice. Purple hair with Moxie, I kind of liked the red hair, but I got red haired kids, so.
Are you still going to have a live mascot?
Nobody wants to do that. No one.
Yeah, someone.
Huh?
At one point, we had someone that did that.
Yeah, it was an actress.
Like your daughter.
Yeah.
Very impressive. Nice. Bold, very bold. Mr. Carl, does that cover this item?
Yes.
Moving on to the draft agenda for the board retreat. Carl.
So I know we discussed retreat and the timing is tentatively scheduled for January, but board can advise on when they would like to hold a retreat. Really, so the cover page of the agenda would outlines the goals of the retreat. So we have a new board, new leadership at the organization. So we wanted to talk a little bit about governance up front. Have a presentation on, future drivers for the organization that would affect the wastewater industry. And then take a look at our vision and strategic outcomes to make sure they align with the future goals and extend that 2040 date into the future. 2040 is not that long away. Then update our strategic outcomes, and then take a look at operating guidelines for the board to work within those strategic outcomes. So we had it on the second page, we had it kind of broken up into 2 days. We thought it'd be fun, instead of doing a board dinner, to do a board team building activity at Building Momentum. We've been working with them on a couple of different options. One of those include welding, and the other one includes some sort of a floating boat. What is it? Electric car, electric boat building at Building Momentum out on Eisenhower. So the 5 board members would get together for a team building event. We could do a lunch beforehand, and there's different packages we can put together, but we can send those around for consideration. Nicole's been working with Building Momentum to kind of build those packages, but we wanted to put it out for timing to make sure it was even doable. Typically, you would do a dinner the night before, and then the next day would be the big session. So would really like feedback on the idea of doing a Friday date. And then the agenda for Saturday, we're trying to get out of here. The goal would be 8 to 3:30. We'd have breakfast. We'd welcome, this would all be facilitated as well. We'd have a welcome session. Where should we be in 26? Where should we be in 2060? I would present on future drivers, things that we're thinking about as the organization to help frame our vision and strategic outcomes. We take a break, have a discussion around the vision, and start visioning, starting where we are now and where we want to go. With our vision, we're looking at 2060 as a date. That can change. Maybe we need to push it further. We'd have lunch, finalize the vision, take a break, update the strategic outcomes, talk about board operating guidelines to support those strategic outcomes, and then adjourn. We would intend that this would be, we have her held now. Sally McGee has been supporting us with partnering for the AlexRenew program. She's wonderful for facilitating these types of discussions. She knows our current mission, vision, values, and strategic outcomes well. And we would propose that she would help facilitate the discussion with the board for the retreat.
Let's get a reaction from the board. First, on the team building exercise, which I think is clever, and a lot more fun than going out to dinner. How do we feel about building a car or building a boat? Is this like a boat on the river? I mean, real?
They have at the facility a pool that you can float the boats in to see if your boat will float or how far it'll go, kind of like a race once you're done building.
How does everybody feel?
Team building's good. I've done the welding one.
Welding?
Welding one, and that was disappointing. So I would suggest the other 2 options, one of the other 2 options, probably more team building than welding. Welding's not a team building. Skill building, but.
Yeah, there was a welding. What do you think?
I'm up to try anything once.
Yeah, I preemptively apologize for ruining our boat, but let's do it. Yeah.
Do it? Okay. I think it's a creative idea, and we've got a new board, so I think team building is great. Sounds like fun. Okay, so that's a good 5-hour chunk of time on a Friday afternoon.
Yeah, well, we're fine. Now that we know that it's potential, we'll put together a little agenda for that afternoon and send it around for consideration, and we can talk about it in September. But we'll lock something down before then.
my personal feeling about the whole day on Saturday going over vision and outcomes. I think that's the most important thing we could do. I think because we have a new board, because we're at a critical juncture in our history, doing it well, and doing it right, vitally important. I hope we could do it in a day. That might be too much. But I think this is the perfect time, perfect place to do. This could be. Mr. Carl, I would encourage if you could have the facilitator do as much upfront work with the board members in advance, if she could. Maybe interview us.
She typically will do, two things, probably do a little survey and then also conduct a half-hour call with each of the board members in advance before the meeting to help. Well, one, she gets to know where you all are, and then it helps her structure the presentation more efficiently.
One thing you'll notice is that everything this authority does is built around the 5 strategic outcomes. If we change those, ripples through, as it should, ripples through the whole institution. We have to do that very thoughtfully and very carefully. But I think the world has changed. We want to revisit, if not the 5, some of the wording within the 5. Just looking back 10 years ago when we came up with the 2040 vision, the thing the board struggled with back then was personal connection with local government. Back then, that was bold. You think about where this institution is now, how we promoted that personal connection. So I think now's the time to be bold again. So this is great. How does everybody feel about the January timeframe? Does that fit into your schedules? Kind of an interesting. People have winter breaks, winter vacations. Step on it.
Like after the holidays. So I feel like everyone's usually.
We can give a thumbs up. Carl, you got what you need. Thanks for putting this all together. Sure. Moving right along, we are now almost at the final item, monthly outcomes. Mr. Carl.
Yeah, maybe a few items in the monthly financial report. Just want to note we hit the year end on June 30th. Just looking at page 3, our expenses by fund, the first and fourth columns show our budget and how much of that budget was expended. Most of the budget we were close to 100% spend on, with the exception of our joint project fund at the WRF, where we were 44% spend for an overall 72% spend of our budget for the year.
What happened with that 44% spend? Was there something that had our projections off?
Either the timing, and so the joint is most of the work at the plant. So it was either timing and design, getting jobs out to get done. They took longer than anticipated in the design phase, and we just didn't hit that capital spend this year on the construction phase. Is most likely the reason for the underspent project fund.
Is there an expectation that would roll into the next year so that we'd be expecting higher spends than normal?
No, I think so. Our goal next year is to spend 75% on the project fund. We're kicking off the year today, getting our job order contracts going on some of that work that, just didn't get done from a procurement standpoint or a design standpoint. We're trying to get that moving now. And a way to efficiently get there is with our job order contracts. So we expect that to be somewhere around 70 to 75% spent by the end of next year. The new budget, not this yet. Sorry. I'm just showing that's an area where we did not meet spending expectations. Some of that has to do with AlexRenew as well, because there is a joint portion of AlexRenew. And, you know, the job has been behind schedule, so it's also changed how we're spending with respect to Alex only and joint.
These actual numbers cash or they reflect expenses and obligations to what we.
The summary?
We're doing 30th and that, yeah, take the bill.
No, this is, we closed the books on these, correct?
Yes, we closed the book. So, yes, it does, include some accruals and encumbrance and, things of that nature. I mean, we are going to have some more year-end activities that usually happen, during audit or post-audit adjustment. Those items are usually not budget reflected items. They are just driven by, whatever the outcome of an audit is. But this includes both cash and accruals and estimates of any job, any work, any revenue received through June 30th, end of fiscal year.
And what's the reason debt service was not at a higher?
That has to do with the timing, just the timing of when we got into some of our debt and when we executed on those. We anticipate that'll be a little bit closer in FY '24, but the difference has to do with the timing of when the debt was executed.
Mr. Carl, is there any operational impact to the underspend of the project?
No.
Something not gonna happen, something not gonna get done? Moving on to page 5. I know we're learning more and more about our delinquent accounts. Any new learnings from our work with delinquent?
We've issued some door hangers and turned around and came back to the office and had customers pay their bill in full. So the door hangers seem to be working. Our outreach seems to be working. If you notice that the delinquencies were flatlining over the last, at least from a average number of delinquent accounts, we're flatlining or slightly decreasing from February up till June, which I think we can attribute to some of our outreach as well as our door hanger distribution. We're going to continue with our door hanger distribution for the delinquencies. And once we have our new billing system in line, we can start discussing the process for shutoffs through Virginia American Water.
So far, no shutoffs.
We're not going to shut customers off in the transition between two accounting systems.
Questions on outcome? And the outreach we're doing right now is we're encouraging our customers to get on payment plans.
So I see that it says there are, let's see, over 1,000 delinquent accounts, most of which are residential, but only 86 residential accounts are on payment plans. Why do you think that number is so low?
Not sure.
Very low.
We've tried a few things over the past 3 months. They've included the bill stuffer that actually goes in the bill, the social media, boosting social media ads, placing social media ads, and the door hangers. So I think when we looked at door hangers initially, we focused on, some of the commercial accounts first. We're still getting out there and distributing hangers to the residential accounts.
Let's spend a moment. What does the door hanger actually say? If I see this hanging on my door, what does it tell me?
It's, I will say a soft hanger, but it has been effective. And it basically is requesting that anybody with a past due account sign up for a payment plan to avoid interruption of service.
Does it tell me I haven't delinquent accounts.
It does. And we had a really good return on the door hangers we have dispersed. What tends to happen a little bit is the number of people that are signing up for payment plans fluctuates dramatically throughout the month because people sign up for one, then do not follow through with it. So you have this number floating between, 80 and 100 that's constantly people signing up and dropping off. That's sort of the challenge.
So do they drop off the payment plan or do they just not pay?
They don't pay.
But this number reflects active payment.
If I may add to Matt's point, so the trend you're seeing with the delinquency trend here is typical of any debt structured over a period of time to for a payment plan. It hit three main stages: stop the bleeding, which we've kind of seen, flatten over a period of time, and hopefully start to come down. The good news looking at this number so far is like Mr. Carl said, it's flattened. You look at over the past 4 or 5 months, it has been pretty flat. So hopefully over the next few months, we could see all the efforts from Matt and his team start to drive the help customer pay down their bill and drive that number down. But it's typical of a traditional debt paid over a period of time. Same trend happened when I was at Service Authority.
The door hanger does not say anything about cutting water off
It says to avoid interruption,
to avoid interruption.
get on a payment plan. It's very soft.
Is this door hanger in English?
English and Spanish.
Spanish and English.
And does it mean, and you all are like advertising LIWA as an option as well, right?
Although I believe LIWAP funds just
September.
Figure out.
We've had about 55,000 spent in Alexandria. We did not see we continue to promote it, but we have not seen a large spend in Alexandria like some of the other communities. And that could be due to complying with the requirements in LIWAP. We also leverage the way we reach out is through Promise. It's another way we reach out to our customers. I think it's important to note that, LIWAP 27,000 are residential. So we're reaching that residential side that have accounts with AlexRenew, not necessarily the commercial side. And that has something to play into probably the use of LIWAP here in Alexandria. Our limited customer base that we can touch.
Have we considered any other languages?
Yeah, we have. Promise has materials in other languages. I think they're capable of using a translator when they do reach out.
I live on the West End and there's a very big Ethiopian population, and it might be worth considering.
America.
City, besides Amharic, the city also does Arabic because of the same population size. We think with Spanish are.
Mr. Carr, could we keep this topic on the agenda just for every monthly meeting? It sounds like every month we get a little bit more understanding. It's a complex process. It's very complex.
Yeah, we've been talking about it.
It's a holdover from COVID, it's a holdover from changing ASA to AlexRenew.
I would really love to understand better the reasons why accounts are delinquent. Like, is it an affordability issue? Is it a misunderstanding? To the extent that you can know that would be really helpful. And then just, I don't know how delinquent accounts are. It might be that if you owe a lot of money, you might think like even a payment plan isn't going to help. And so how is the payment plan structured? What is being offered to people? What are the opportunities to try to address the issue, like other opportunities that haven't been able to yet?
One of the surprises that we had, I think, the great presentation that you all gave us 2 months ago or so, is the geographic distribution of these delinquent accounts. Not the neighborhoods you would think. Not the neighborhoods you would think. That was the surprise. Which
I'm disappointed I missed that. I
no,
love
well,
data like
you
that.
didn't,
Yeah.
you didn't miss it. We can send it.
Right.
Yeah. It's a real GIS presentation. And we don't understand the problem. I think you're getting on top of it. It's not, I don't think this is solely affordability.
The data hasn't shown that.
I think it's an understanding issue. It's a whole bunch of things. We don't know yet.
Are you seeing similar trends in our neighboring utilities?
I have not looked, but I know it's, knowing Loudon, Prince William, we at least, those two, they're not necessarily neighboring, but they have similar trends. And in the past, if you look at the history at AlexRenew, we've had this problem in the past. Before we implemented disconnects in 2016, we saw a pretty big decrease after that.
Well, nationally, I know that there was just a huge spike in delinquent accounts during COVID.
Yeah, but we're almost 3 years out of it. I just
I
wonder.
know, I'm just looking at the line on the graph. It starts in June 2020 and it's like
I
that.
guess I'm just wondering if other jurisdictions are seeing the slow rebound.
I think one of the challenges too, with the slow rebound, some of our payment plans were extended during COVID to 48 months. So that doesn't help for a quick response to the issue. So we're also looking at new payment plans would be shorter in duration than what we had granted in COVID, and we shut off. We stopped doing disconnects during COVID.
I'm looking at the month to month, and it seems almost random that they jump by 50 or 100 either up or down in month to month. I'm just on page 5. I wonder, have you seen any reason for that? Is it are the average bills higher or lower when the delinquent accounts go up or down, or is it just random?
I mean, from talking with the people at Promise, it's a pretty common theme they're saying, just people not basically sticking to their payment plan consistently. I think that's the biggest variable.
I said before, we're on a voyage of discovery. Month we learn a little more. We could share that great presentation with Becky.
Sure.
That, like maybe all the board members. That was very important.
Question on disconnects. What are allowed right now? And did they see any change if they went back?
Speak for Prince William.
Yeah, Prince William County, actually, they started back disconnection January 18th of this year. With that, seeing a little dip in the delinquent payment. But like I said earlier, usually when we disconnect, your delinquent balance don't come down overnight. It takes time because of folks you still have on payment plan. What it really does, it forces people to get on a payment plan or some sort of assistance or whatnot to get their balances down.
And I don't think Loudon has started their disconnect yet.
I do know that their trend is similar to Little and All.
The disconnect notice, it's just an alarm to get potential customers or on a payment plan. But that still maintains your balance because it's not paying it down. It's just saying over a period of time you plan to pay this down.
Good discussion. More to come, right? Any other discussion on
I got one.
Financial question. Mr.
Uh,
Dix.
here's revenues we were ahead, expenditures, we had revenues, budget. Expenditures, we were under expended. What's the net? Of all of the surplus that we had the end of the year based on these numbers?
In the general fund.
Yeah, everything goes to general fund. We'll have a better number to tell you on that once they get and conclude with all the audit adjustments or whatnot. But in theory, everything ends up in our general fund, which is AlexRenew's our cash fund account. And that helps out with future project, future rates, proposal we may have. We factor all those things into that.
How much?
We'll have to bring it,
We'll have to get
we'll bring
back
it to next meeting or send you an email. Next. We're still working on closing out.
We're starting out with $11 million in cash reserves.
something around the ball.
Any other questions on financial?
So for the Revenue dashboard, page 2, we continue to be behind due to the earlier delays discussed on mining, and that ties in directly to our work at AlexRenew. The exciting time about this project is we're finally putting permanent concrete in the ground. I think anybody who took a tunnel tour saw our concrete placement for the pumping shaft. We're starting on permanent structures at all of the sites, so that's very exciting to transition away from temporary support. But we're going to continue to be behind on the mining due to our previous delays that were incurred, those 60-day delays. We're seeing those stretch a bit over the past few months.
Has Hazel started mining again yet?
She has. We started mining late last week and broke out of the shaft. Right now, we're trying to find good ground to do an intervention to change the cutting tools back to soft ground after we broke through the concrete. Put our nose cone back on, start going under the park, under the river, all the way to Falmouth.
So are we approximately at Jones Point Park right now?
We are about 50 feet from the shaft on the other side of the shaft. So we're fully within Jones Point Park. We're about to take that big curve that goes through the park up to the river. So we'll do another intervention. She'll stop for 2 or 3 days, get the tools changed, and we'll move on.
I check on Host Run every week or so. Those are the footprints of giants. It is that is a massive, tiny little spot.
Pendleton Street, we're still pile driving. We're about 100 piles driven. And I mentioned before that it's taking longer than expected due to the splicing, since they are splicing and welding in the field. So we're expecting that to go through August to finish the pile driving at the site. I think we initially said June, July timeframe.
Any complaints?
The only feedback we received was from our stakeholder group at our last meeting. But Mr. Carpenter at Mace has been managing, his building, and it's really the only feedback we've heard to date.
Have the downpours had this month causing any problem?
No, it just meant we have to get out of the drink at Hoops Run when it happens, but get back in and sump it out and keep moving. I think if you look at page 5, we show our program costs to date. Our spend by locality continues to be strong. Understanding that part of that 24 million of that non-local comes from the TBM in Germany, as well as probably another 10 million for the MSVs in France, and $700,000 of segment bills. When we look at our overall spend, we're all past halfway point on the overall program spend. You can see we're at $330 million, as well as the AlexRenew and Fairfax share broken down today.
We're a little bit below the anticipated spend. It's not primarily due to the delay.
Yes. Two things could contribute there. We also have contingency below the line allowances that are assumed to be expended in this time. That have yet to be expended. They may not be expended, which would mean we come under budget. But yeah, a lot of this is representative delay. Back page, just a really cool picture of us performing the intervention in the outfall 2 shaft. As you can see, Hazel has no more paint. There's a few flecks here and there, but this is pretty much what she looks like now. What you see around the cutter head is flowable fill, and our team is inside performing an intervention and tool change for the breakout.
Now there's a work group meeting tomorrow.
So, yeah, flipping back a page, we have a work group meeting tomorrow and a SAG meeting on Thursday.
Any big report at the work group meeting? Just an update. Pretty much this.
Kind of, yeah, there's not much, we'll go through each site in progress. It's pretty much this. Yeah, there's nothing big to report. We consider bringing the logo, but to give them an update, but probably not.
Keep it focused on the top.
I think in community outreach, we had a lot of good coverage over the past 2 weeks in the Post. This was from Sunday. There's also the article online Friday prior. 541 comments, mainly positive, all positive comments. It was actually surprising to go through and read the comments. Everything was very supportive, to the point where some of the readers reached out to the author asking for emails for some of the people that were interviewed on the job so they can send them a note of encouragement, which was really nice to see. So it was a really good coverage, really, thank the team for working with the Post over the past year to make that happen.
That was a really great video.
It was. And by the way, kudos to you for letting the team members be in the article. That was really interesting. Hearing from the foreman, folks who are actually in the tunnel. That was a nice touch.
Yeah, the Post did a great job. They spent probably 10 days out here in that time.
Really?
Critical times on the job, they've come in.
Great. Very good. So. Okay. Any other questions on the dashboard? Board members are welcome to attend the work group meeting with the mayor and vice mayor tomorrow at 5 in this room. If you want. Other things to do, but it's a great way to hear the mayor's concerns. And stakeholder at 7 on Thursday also. And then we're quiet for a while. You're quiet. You're busy as we do. Any other business? Sure. Second. Favor? I no vote. Everybody have a wonderful August. Enjoy the Washington heat. And we'll meet again in September. Becky, you're welcome to attend the Justice Wilson.
Justin.
Okay.